Welcome back to Nat Chat, the Natilik podcast. After a short break, we're back with our second season, and to mark our return, we're going international. Natilik's international unit is the fastest growing part of our business and provides a vital role in helping our clients across the Americas and Asia Pacific. I sat down with three of our international team to discuss how we're helping clients with everything from procurement in some of the most tricky regions across the world to delivering projects and technical support in this episode of the Natilik podcast. All right, good morning, evening or afternoon, wherever you are. We are back and we're going international for this episode of the Pod Listener. And what a lineup we've got to do so. So a hat trick of podcast debuts. So let's get to know our guests a little bit better before we dive into the topics today. Ladies first, starting off with International Marketing Manager Claire Douglas. Hey Claire, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you today, Rob?
Wonderful. Yeah, my favourite time of the week, pod time. Claire, since you are a podcast debutant, and as are all three of you, tell us a little bit about you and what you do on a day-to-day basis so we can get to know you a little.
Yeah, so I'm part of the marketing team at Natilik, but I am solely focused on looking after our international business. So I support the teams out in the US and in Australia. So they cover the regions. So we've got Asia Pac and also the Americas. So supporting them with anything from supporting clients with any marketing specific pieces and arranging kind of like bigger events. So yeah, kind of quite far reaching really, a bit of everything to help out whatever they need to support our clients as best as we can.
Love it. Part of my team, so always happy to bring more marketing into the pod. Good. And we're also joined by Natilik International Managing Director, Brad Hale. How are you, Brad?
Hi guys, I'm good, thank you. Evening here over in Sydney, I should say. But yeah, glad to be part of this. Thank you for involving us.
Pleasure is all ours. Now, Brad, I'm going to introduce Rob in a sec, but I know you and Mr. Akister are both double figures in terms of your time at Natilik, and you've both got very strong backgrounds. So tell us a little bit about you and your role at Natilik and how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So I've certainly been with the company, I think 18 years, coming up 18 years. Actually, it's just gone over 18 years. So originally a Kiwi, decided to jump to the other side of the world and do the overseas experience, which I think is a bit of a Kiwi Australian thing. And I hadn't been in the country for too long before I found the company and have been with them ever since. Started as a support engineer, moved to become a Cisco networking engineer, moved into leadership of our Cisco practice at that point of time, and things have just, as the business has grown, opportunities are abound, and ended up taking the opportunity to move over here, which we'll talk about in a second, here being Australia, to set up the APAC business, and more recently have taken on the responsibility of supporting not just the APAC business, but also the Americas business as well, in the role of International Managing Director.
Wow, that's a strong origin story. I like it a lot. And he's been patiently waiting. So rounding off our international trio, Asia Pacific Sales Director, Robb Akister. Welcome, Rob. You've got a pretty tall order to follow there. So why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background on you?
Thank you, Rob. No, I do indeed. That's a pretty substantial pedigree back there. But like Brad, I joined Natilik, I think about 6 to 8 months after Brad, actually. So I'm coming up 18 years in Natilik in August. So yeah, it's been a long journey. Obviously started in London. I was actually doing my master's degree, got while working in Natilik back in the day, offered the role to stay, and here I am, still here. So, variety of roles. So my background is actually more on customer service. So I started off in our logistics function within Natilik back in the day, and then moved up to the service delivery side of the business, ended up running that team, and then moved to sales after about 12 years of doing that. Same as Brad, opportunity came to relocate to Sydney. And I said, why not? Life is short. And plus my background is, I grew up in Asia Pacific, prior to moving to Europe. So I thought it's a good opportunity to come back and, reestablish roots here in the region. So, come 3 years ago, myself and the whole family relocated to Sydney to run the Asia Pacific commercial side of Natilik.
Nice. And we all lived happily ever after, basically, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. So far, so good. Can't complain, fella. Yeah. It's 21 degrees in autumn, blue sky.
Don't
exactly. Compared to London, yeah.
Well, yeah, the way things are at the moment, definitely it's pretty apocalyptic, but I'm hearing it's going to get a little better. So suffice to say, so we've got the right people here to talk about the topic today, which is our international business. So Natilik obviously has a big footprint in the UK and Europe, but as you've mentioned already, our international business has been huge for us and it's been there for our clients from the start. So it's not something that every partner in the channel has, which is why I wanted to spend some time talking about it today. So going to come to you first, Brad. Can you talk to us a little bit about why it's so important and maybe a little bit about the origins and just in general what we do for our clients internationally?
Yeah, sure. So I think the international business within Natilik started in September 2015 when Natilik came into being, and the brand came into being, I should say. And we started in 2015 in both the Americas and APAC with two primary tasks. And those are best represented about completing the Follow the Sun tech support global roster or rota that we needed to put into place to support our global clients that we were delivering a managed service to. And secondarily, we were also wanting to set up a fulfillment business for our UK headquartered clients who might have requirements of what we call transition services, PM and engineering in region, or even the slightly more challenging procurement of hardware, software licensing into the various countries in those regions. And to be completely frank, there are some pretty challenging countries in our regions. And I'm proud to say that, in the 6 years that we've been doing this since 2015, we've managed to grab a heritage across the challenging countries. And I'd call those out as being China, Brazil, India, and Japan, the four off the top of my head that are quite challenging unless you've got the right routes to market. And Natilik has certainly cut its teeth in proving that we can deliver to our clients. And then in April 2018, we evolved the business into be a sales business, and that coincided with Robb's message there, him relocating from the UK, Robb and his family, and we evolved the Americas business at the same time as well. So effectively, have been a sales-led business in both regions for just over 3 years. And in that time, we've been focusing on winning Sydney and New York headquartered multinational clients, specializing in networking and collaboration specifically. But over the past few years, have certainly developed our portfolio to cover the four architectures that Cisco would call out. That includes data center and security as well. And I should finally mention, clearly we've spoken about, the challenging countries that we've worked in within APAC and Americas, but Natilik has delivered globally in over 60 countries. APAC, for example, is actually made up of 33 countries. We've worked in the 14, what I would call the major economies of the world. We're yet to win a deal in Fiji, and I'm pretty sure Robb will be pretty quick to put up his hand to go over there and get the signature on the dotted line. But not a country where we would call a major economy in APAC.
No, that's great. That's great. And I think, again, just to attest to that, I think more than anything, any clients that have worked in those regions will know how painful it is. I mean, it's typically, when we have conversations with clients, they already know, and usually, they'll kind of side eye us and are you sure you can get into there? And, it kind of is just that experience that makes it so invaluable to our clients. So, that's really, 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 really powerful. Coming over to you, Claire, another big element of our presence comes from our international partnerships and some of the subtle differences in our proposition. So bringing you back into the conversation, how are we finding that, especially, for instance, in a year that's seen the various powers that be in the different countries that we operate in taking very different stances to reacting to the pandemic and things like that? It must be interesting in terms of how we cater our messaging to our clients, certainly.
Yeah, so that kind of understanding is really a big part of my role, and building relationships with partners in region and in country is really important. So whether that's directly with the likes of Cisco, Pure Storage, Palo Alto, or with distributors like Westcon, Tech Data, and Synex. So the reasons why these relationships are so important is that it really takes our global coverage to the next level. So by this, I mean, not only do we have the global coverage and the capabilities to work with clients wherever their office might be, we also have the understanding of the challenges that they face in those locations. So working closely with partners locally means we can tailor what we offer to address clients' needs in that particular country or region. So we can really provide them with what they need to succeed. And a great example of this has been the COVID pandemic. So currently in the UK and the US, we're very focused on return to work. We're supporting clients where possible to ensure a safe return to the office over the coming weeks and months. Whereas in Australia, the situation is very, very different, with life pretty much being back to normal. And I can definitely vouch for that. Being a bit jealous of recent having calls with the guys in Sydney who are in the office or having socials. So yeah, I'm looking forward to us getting a little bit back to normal over here as well. But yeah, so the COVID example is a very clear-cut kind of example, but it shows the importance of having the local awareness and the insight, which is supported by our in-partner relationships. So that's just really good for us. Working with the partners in country helps us understand what it is the clients are seeking and how we're able to support them on whichever part of their digital transformation journey they're on. So it can be at the start, they could be at the, they can kind of have everything established and they just need a bit of maybe managed support. Whatever it is, we can really support them wherever they are in the globe. So that's great. And for me, that's what's really exciting, being in my role as an international marketing manager. And I think it's the real differentiator for us compared to other countries that offer global support.
Yeah, it is 100%. Yeah, I bet just a shame that you're not actually able to get out into some of those countries at the moment, right? I mean, I'm sure you'd...
We're working on it, Rob.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Claire will be visiting here very soon. We need her here, and maybe keep her here. Come on, Brad, sort it out.
I mean, I don't think she'd be complaining compared to we're having our virtual drinks and you guys are there on whatever it is, like a speedboat, having your like team meetings and team socials and things. It's been very, very different. It's been painful.
Yeah.
Got it.
And our weather has been atrocious.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so
our dark winter.
Get me over to Sydney.
Yeah. No, I definitely.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, so separate to getting jealous of watching you guys and your socials on your speedboats, etc., from bars and things that we've only just got back here, Rob, I've actually enjoyed working closely with you over the last year or so, and especially hearing some of the stories from across the pond. So would you be able to share some examples of the good stuff that Brad and Claire have spoken about at work, just to help our clients kind of contextualize some of it?
Yeah, certainly, Rob. It's been a pleasure on my side as well. And I think one of the key things we be very aware of, or our clients should be very aware of, is we are one of very few partners globally that are able to transact centrally, but procure the equipment locally in any countries that they need to deploy. So what does that mean? So a really good example is one of our first wins when we arrived here is SurfCorp. So they are an Australian headquartered multinational with about 150 odd offices globally across 22 countries. So prior to us being engaged with them, they would find, different partners in different countries where they need to deploy equipment, like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Philippines is another example. But when, as soon as I kind of come across to them, we made procurement of equipment for these regions really, really simple for them. So we design and transact everything in Sydney. I do, procure everything from us here, but we actually buy the kit ourselves in Manila, in Riyadh, in Dubai, in Turkey. So what does that mean? So that means a few things, really. One, we can centralize or expand on their discounts that they get from Cisco into those regions where they weren't able to do before. So the discounts they are getting here, which is substantial, we can then suddenly push that across to the different countries. So procurement's happy, they can budget really easily. The two really important ones are project timelines are a lot more easier to manage. So their PMs actually love working with us because they know that once it's procured, they don't need to worry about customs, import duties, which comes onto my third risk, which is customs and being stuck with, spanked really with hidden taxes as soon as you try to get it out of customs. So those three are really quite unique to Natilik globally, and we can't, we don't do not just in Asia Pacific, we do that across the Americas as well. Although I try to avoid Brazil with a passion, as Brad alluded to earlier, it's pretty challenging to get equipment there. However, for the rest of the world, that's it's really, really, really useful. So and I guess in that, that example alone is replicated across 4 or 5 of our major kind of clients that we work with today here in Asia Pacific. So that program is pretty key for us. The value it delivers to clients and to our partner Cisco. So previously to Cisco AMs listening here that have international accounts, if you kind of work with us and your international clients, then suddenly you'll have access to, I guess, discounts or revenue for other regions that before you had no reach for. With the program that we're on, that's definitely something that they can leverage on our side. Absolutely. And to add to that, we're also, being a Cisco only partner or predominantly Cisco, we know the environment really well. We build our own designs. We're pretty self-sufficient partner here in region. So what does that mean? We're very nimble and we can turn around codes rapidly, in any part of the, in the region, obviously from my perspective here in Asia Pacific, but globally as well. So, that's one just, key example, I think that we always lean to and lead with when we try to do work with clients here in Asia Pacific.
Yeah, and it sounds really simple, but I think just the level of pain just from any one of those particular things going wrong can just, like you said, push a timeline out. It can basically mean the difference between getting a new office standard stood up or not, right? So the level of pain
at the right cost as well.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, there's obviously like a knock-on effect usually to all those things as well that usually come around. Whether it is timelines or cost related or outcome based. So I think that's really important. What about, I know again you've talked about a couple of other examples that we've got sort of internationally as well, clients like that. So obviously kit's a big one as well. What else would you say sort of calling out in terms of the big wins that you guys have had over the last sort of 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of really key ones that kind of was a good baseline for us here in Asia Pacific. And before I jump into them, it's another thing to take into account is we're also able to deploy across these countries. So if a client requires someone to install equipment in the Philippines, we've done that. Taiwan, pick. Vietnam, interesting. So another country that's just up and coming. So we've done there as well. So, and maybe it's not for this podcast, but there's definitely discussion to be had in how we sort of do that that service for our clients globally. But the other key examples that we won is one US headquartered management consulting firm, one of the biggest. I think they're in the big 5 in the world. Same scenario, but in reverse. So they came to us here more around how do we simplify, our global purchases, global licensing. I started off with a small location in Sydney, and same with the same program. We in essence managed to simplify how to refresh 88 firewalls across pretty much all regions, all theaters for Cisco, and all continents. And that wasn't an easy task. And again, we achieved that through the same program. But also we achieved that by simplifying the design, the consultancy side of it. So I know we can provide hardware, but we also have the skill sets within the region to actually, look at what the client requirements are. And, if they're looking to refresh, in this case, their security environment from a firewall side of things, moved into next generation firewall rather than a like for like, and really understand, what are they trying to achieve, and then we kind of map out the requirements and the solutions at the back of that.
Yeah, hugely powerful as well, and I think we'll be touching on that with bringing in Lucy to talk about some of our other capabilities from a project and managed service perspective as well. But that's absolutely huge. I know I can, again, having worked with clients myself back in my sales days as well, I know how important that is. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I guess from a final example from my perspective, kind of brings all of those examples together. So we've worked and won, and we've been working with for several years now a really big software provider for the logistics industry. Again, HQ'd out in Sydney, with about 150 locations globally, and their challenge is slightly different. So they were looking at onboarding 30 odd acquisitions that they've done for the last 2 years. So how do we, incorporate these sort of different businesses into our environment seamlessly? And the answer to that is a combination of the program I discussed earlier, this, Cisco GPN program. We also introduced them to Meraki, which is, a great solution from Cisco to simplify, multiple locations, because they have a very light team. And also the biggest one is consolidating 40 data centers into 3. So, and that's where our engagement with Pure Storage came into play. So, throughout the last 2 to 3 years, and that's, what we've been working with this client with, is centralizing their DCs into Sydney, Hamburg, and also Chicago, and then onboarding all of these acquisitions across those different regions. At the same time, onboarding them from a network perspective, both wired and wireless, using Meraki. So that's a combination of the design side of things from us, our partnerships with the likes of Pure Storage and Cisco on the program that allowed us to procure, transact centrally but procure locally, and then combine that with, the way we can deliver across those regions was pretty powerful. And, we're still rolling that out as we speak.
That is, yeah. And it's a really powerful story, but also, again, I think the simplicity, it might sound like, again, there's a lot of moving parts there, but I think that the key thing to take away as well is that the simplicity that brings to our clients in terms of still just having the same company to speak to, knowing that it's going to be the same experience around the globe, regardless of working with different people.
Yeah.
You're not going to pick up the phone to someone, have to explain what you're doing again, what you want to do again, regardless of wherever you're speaking to them. Again, just really removes a load of those headaches as well.
Yeah, that's a major thing, because, for example, the experience that they get working with us here in Sydney or in Singapore is identical when they engage us in Europe, for example. So there is, same language, same documentation, same processes, and that's great. And as you said in the very beginning, that's actually very unique to Natilik. There's not a lot of partners that can say that, are truly global. I mean, we're quite small, but we do punch way above our weight, I think, with the clients that we work with, and purely because of our focus on and the passion for what we do. For me, I genuinely enjoy working with clients and trying to make their lives easy and understand how we can help them grow their businesses. And for me, that's something I love doing, and I want to continue to do.
Yeah, we're a close bunch. I think that's, again, usually when you're working with companies that kind of handle projects as big as the ones that we handle, you find that, again, the people that are on the project, you might have, 20, 30 people, but they don't, they've not really worked together. They don't know each other. Whereas, again, wasn't that long ago that I was sat in an office with you, learning from your wise words and experience and things like that back in your UK sales days, right? So,
yes. And I guess for us here at the back of that, we are growing. So yeah, and keep me real here, Brad. We are one of the fastest growing regions or BUs within Natilik, just because of the nature of the region that we're in. Is very complex, but we can simplify it for clients, and that's a huge tick in the box. And I guess last piece for me is that Brad alluded to, is assisting our clients inbound from the UK for their projects in region. It's the same in reverse, right? So they work with the UK team, and when they come to us here, for us to facilitate their needs for the region, the experience is the same. The response time, the way well, to be frank, the attitude is the same in terms of can do, let's get it done, respond quickly, on time, get the equipment on there when you say you're going to get it there. It's the basics, but we cover that really, really well, I think.
Clearly, it doesn't matter which Natilik entity you work with, be it Australia, be it with Singapore, be it with America or the UK. We ensure that we provide the same consistent approach. doing business internationally is not easy. What Natilik strives to do is to make it as simple as possible for our global clients, all day, every day.
All day, every day.
So just one other thing to add to that, I'd probably call out that the Australian economy wasn't nearly as impacted through COVID as many of the other global economies, and therefore the bounce back has been from a considerably stronger position as a result. So what globally I think saw a considerable dip, Australia never really saw that, and actually with the Australia economy and Natilik saw our clients actually come out of COVID stronger than ever.
Yeah, and I'll second that actually, because maybe I was a little bit too international biased, because you're quite right, Brad. At the during the COVID period, we have been extremely busy, but with local companies. So we've won a lot of firms, projects with construction companies, for example, that we've been working here. A couple of software development companies, consultancy firms, and they're all sizable in their own in their own account, but they're all Australia only, New South Wales only. We've won, for example, a client in WA in Perth who have 10 shopping centers and a couple of big, really high-end sort of resorts up in Broome in Western Australia. And again, this is during COVID, and from their point of view, they were really, really busy. Same pain points, but just localized. So again, our expertise were applied to those clients. Same thing, like team. We need something quick. We need to understand what our customers are doing in the malls, and the solution for that obviously is again my favorite, Meraki, and then overlay that with Wi-Fi analytics using, in this case, local measure, and then lo and behold, we're suddenly talking outside IT into marketing, how to add further value to the business. But I guess just to mirror Brad saying there, definitely from Australia's standpoint, it helped us a lot in the last 12 months, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I do kind of feel like you're rubbing it in a little bit here with the growth, better weather, better social conditions, a rock solid team. Like I might be like pushing for a move off the back of this.
Did I mention the beach? There's a lot of beaches here. It's crazy.
We don't have those in London, or the things that we would call a beach. I mean, I don't know that they're quite healthy, spending much time around there. So, you really paint a solid picture, yeah, and yeah. All right, and one last thing I think is probably worth mentioning, because you two are obviously based in Australia, and I know everything, even regardless of that, I think everything that you've just talked about is relevant in the US as well. But there's been one rather big development in that part of the world recently, Brad, I think, in the stand-up of our new data centers out there as well, where we've been offering some pretty interesting sort of cloud and hybrid cloud services to our clients. So I think it's probably worth talking about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the prompt, Rob. As you've just said, we've made the investment and stood up what we call the Natilik platform, which enables us to take to market to our clients a cloud or hybrid cloud offering to our clients. And we're actually working with not just US opportunities or US clients in that data center space. We're actually working with clients that are globally, who have presence with users in the US who are interested in taking us up on that as well. And we've got a couple of clients that are using that data center space to enable us to provide a hosted voice and hosted contact center offering. So again, providing that cloud offering to them, a per user per month subscription, which is clearly the world of cloud that we're all used to. Not just as consumers, the old Netflix model, but certainly in the business world now as well, where our clients can consume on the same easy principle. And that data center is up and running, dual location, fully redundant, allowing Natilik to provide fantastic SLA wraps for our clients that clearly will put their business critical services into Natilik's safe pair of hands.
Yeah, and that's been a really interesting development. I was talking to Adam Bonney, our CTO, about that the other day, and we did have an internal session about it. It's taken us into a really, really, really exciting world of being able to host services for our clients, and that's definitely something that we're going to be talking more and more about. But the fact that we can offer that internationally now is great. You know, we've got that data center, we've got those data centers even to offer those services today. The plan is to continue to expand that into APAC as well. So it's exciting times, and it really is sort of broadening our international portfolio and our technology portfolio as well. So I think that's a great note in which to leave it on. So I think more than anything, I think hopefully, listener, you've learned a little bit there about what our capabilities are internationally. If you didn't know already, you do have a Natilik team in region wherever you are. So be that our New York office in Americas or our Sydney office in APAC as well. So please do reach out to whoever it is again out there, and the details will be included in the show notes as well, so that you can, you know, whether it's looking at consultations, whether you want assistance with projects or procurement or any of the things that we've discussed today. I just encourage you to reach out there. All that leaves me to do is just thank our fine guests for joining me on this episode of the Natilik podcast. So thank you very much, Mr. Ackister. Pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise.
Cheers, Brad.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
I'll let you guys go to enjoy your evening. And Claire, lovely to speak to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for listening to NatChat, the Natilik podcast. Please subscribe to the Natilik podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave us a review while you're there. It really helps us improve and grow the show. Please note that opinions expressed on the Natilik podcast are those of the hosts or our guests, not the organisations that they represent. You can find more information on Natilik on our website, that's natilik.com. You can also find us on social media. On Twitter, we're at Natilik Group, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. Our theme music was provided by Dan Shaw, who you can find at Danzer, that's DANZR, on music streaming services. This is Robb Thor, and thanks again for listening.